In the darkest hours of World War II, during the rapid Soviet advance through Europe, amidst the frozen landscapes of Northern Europe, a battle raged that would etch its name into the annals of history. Welcome to the untold story of valor, resilience, and the struggle for survival. Welcome to the epic tale of the Battle of Narva. It was the year 1944, and the Eastern Front stood as a battleground for two formidable forces: the relentless might of the Soviet Red Army and the determined defense of the valiant German soldiers. In the heart of this conflict, Narva emerged as a crucible of bloodshed and heroism. And we are history at war, and we are very happy to have you here with us today. Let's continue. The Battle of Narva, which took place in the first half of 1944, was a significant but lesser-known engagement on the Eastern Front. It involved the German Army and the Soviet Leningrad Front, vying for control of the strategically important Narva isthmus. The German High Command considered it vital to stabilize their position along the Narva River, as a Soviet breakthrough would have resulted in the loss of Estonia's northern coast and control of the Gulf of Finland. This would have granted the Soviet Baltic Fleet access to the Baltic Sea, posing a threat to German control and the shipment of iron ore imports from Sweden. It's important to note the background context of the battle. When Germany launched Operation Barbarossa against the Soviet Union, tens of thousands of Estonians and Latvians were forcefully conscripted into the Red Army. Political prisoners who couldn't be evacuated were brutally executed by the Soviet Secret Police, NKVD. As a result, the Baltic nationals saw the German army units as liberators from Soviet repression and hoped for the restoration of independence. However, their initial enthusiasm waned when the Baltics became part of German-occupied territories. After breaking the encirclement near Leningrad, the 11th SS Volunteer Panzer Grenadier Division, Nordland, fought its way back to Narva, Estonia, where a new defensive line was established. This period also witnessed the participation of numerous European volunteers from Denmark, Estonia, Flanders, Germany, Holland, Norway, Sweden, and Wallonia, who fought alongside the German units. The battle became known as the Battle of Narva, or the Battle of the European SS, due to the majority of defenders being European volunteers. The battle took place from February to August 1944. The First Battle of Narva occurred in February 1944. German and Soviet forces fought in and around the Estonian city of Narva. At the time, the German Army Group North, under the command of Field Marshal Georg von Küchler, held defensive positions along the Narva River. The Soviet Leningrad Front, led by General Leonid Govorov, launched a massive offensive with the objective of quickly capturing Narva and breaking through the German defenses. Despite being outnumbered, the German defenders held their ground. The Soviet forces heavily outnumbered the Germans, with around 200,000 troops compared to the approximately 70,000 German soldiers. The initial Soviet assault involved a concentrated artillery barrage followed by a series of infantry attacks. The Soviet troops aimed to overwhelm the German defenses and swiftly capture the city. Harsh winter conditions and German defenses hindered the Soviet forces. The battle ended in a stalemate, with heavy casualties on both sides. The Germans successfully maintained their position, setting the stage for future phases of the Battle of Narva. By August 1944, around 70,000 Estonians had joined the German armed forces, and by that time, approximately 10,400 had been killed or were missing in action. On July 23, 1944, Steiner ordered a retreat from Narva to the Tannenberg Line, a prepared position 16 kilometers to the west. German units that failed to retreat on schedule faced heavy Soviet assaults. The Dutch Panzer Grenadier Regiment and its artillery component provided rear guard support while the remaining volunteers crossed the river. The Northland Pioneer Battalion then destroyed the bridge at the Narva front. The Second Battle of Narva, which took place from March 1 to July 10, 1944. Following the initial stalemate of the First Battle of Narva, the Soviet Leningrad Front, under the command of General Leonid Govorov, launched a renewed offensive against the German Army Group North, led by Field Marshal Georg von Küchler. The Soviet objective was to capture Narva and establish a bridgehead for further advances into Estonia. The Soviet forces enjoyed a significant numerical advantage, with an estimated 200,000 troops compared to approximately 80,000 German soldiers defending the area. The offensive began with an intense and prolonged artillery bombardment, followed by coordinated infantry assaults aimed at overwhelming the German defenses. The German defenders, consisting primarily of the 20th Estonian SS Division, the 11th Infantry Division, and other units, held a fortified position known as the Tannenberg Line. This defensive system comprised trenches, bunkers, and minefields that were meticulously constructed to repel the anticipated Soviet onslaught. The battle unfolded over several months and was characterized by intense and costly fighting. The Soviets made gradual progress, pushing the German lines back and capturing some strategic positions. However, the Germans skillfully utilized their defensive works and conducted effective counterattacks, inflicting heavy casualties on the advancing Soviet forces. The harsh winter conditions added another layer of difficulty for both sides. Freezing temperatures, deep snow, and limited visibility due to blizzards further complicated operations and imposed additional hardships on the troops. The battlefront stretched along the Narva River, with fierce clashes occurring in urban areas and the surrounding countryside. Although the Soviets managed to make gains, they were unable to achieve a decisive breakthrough or capture Narva during the Second Battle of Narva. The German forces, fortified in the Tannenberg Line, held their ground tenaciously and prevented the Soviets from achieving their objectives. The battle resulted in heavy casualties on both sides, with estimates varying widely. The intense and protracted fighting exacted a significant toll on human lives and resources. Here are some words we found from an original account from a soldier who fought during the Battle of Narva.
Narva was a challenging and intense engagement. We were outnumbered and facing overwhelming Soviet forces. We held our ground along the Narva River. Despite the freezing temperatures and waves of enemy attacks, our trenches, bunkers, and artillery helped slow their advance. We fought with unwavering determination, witnessing the sacrifices and bravery of our comrades. Holding the line against the Soviet offensive, the battle taught us the true meaning of valor and strengthened our commitment to defending our positions until the end.
The casualties during the Battle of Narva, including West European volunteers and local Estonian conscripts, were estimated at 14,000 dead or missing, and 54,000 wounded Germans. Soviet losses, on the other hand, were much higher, with an estimated 150,000 to 200,000 dead or wounded troops. The Battle of the Tannenberg Line was one of the last tactical victories for the German army on the Eastern Front. Overall, the Soviet offensive in Estonia resulted in approximately 480,000 casualties. The Battle of Tannenberg Line resulted in a German victory, however. After the Battle of Narva, the German forces were still engaged in a broader conflict against the Soviet Union on the Eastern Front. Despite their success at Narva, the Germans were ultimately unable to halt the Soviet advance. The Soviet Union launched a massive offensive in the summer of 1944, known as Operation Bagration, which inflicted heavy losses on the German Army Group Center and pushed them back towards the borders of East Prussia and Poland. And there we have it. That is the Battle of Narva and the Battle of the Tannenberg Line. We hope you guys have enjoyed this episode on these lesser-known battles on the Eastern Front during World War II, showcasing the fierce struggle between the German army and the Soviet forces. As always, rest in peace to the Soviet and Axis soldiers of this heroic struggle of both sides. We will always keep the memory alive. Remember to check out our Instagram below, and you can support us on Patreon. We will see you guys soon.